I think by now it's fairly safe to assume that John Lennon was what we call a genius. He certainly followed the script wrought by previous giants with his lonely childhood, dreamy nature, and rebellious disposition. The unexpected death of his free-spirited mother, too, sad as it was, probably helped round off the edges of his character, chiseled so assiduously by the matronly Auntie Mimi Smith. Still, there is nothing so common as unrequited talent, so it's definitely a measure of his drive and ambition that John was able to jump over his stodgy middle-class environment and land foursquare at the blustery heights of international stardom. What was really wonderful about the guy was the way his work was so intimately and personally assimilated by his legions of fans around the world. John was a homegrown musician from suburban Liverpool, whose musical and lyrical thought processes were somehow almost completely simpatico with kids everywhere. No small feat. Even time, it seems, hasn't diminished the impact or solidarity of his vast body of work. Equally as potent as his music, of course, were his thought-provoking words. Before being pushed into introspection by Bob Dylan's early recordings, Lennon didn't really pay too much attention to lyrics. But from then on, to John anyway, the message was the medium and the music just a seductive roller coaster to help bring the message home. As early as 1972, Lennon acknowledged his primary musical objective was putting out newspapers on what he was thinking at any given moment. The pinnacle of that philosophy was, of course, the preachy, often maligned Sometime in New York City LP. The cornerstone, however, was quite simply Lennon's big mouth, which he so charmingly shot off at every opportunity since almost the day he hooked up with the inscrutable Yoko Ono. It's been said that no couple since John and Jackie Kennedy were as widely chronicled on film and audio tape. That being said, time has done an excellent job of reducing the mountain of John's engaging chat down to the appealing molehill that I present to you today. 1969 was definitely the year when John consciously decided to use his celebrity to put forward an agenda, something virtually unheard of today, with celebrities only rarely daring to possibly offend their audiences with any sort of intelligent opinion, even if they were capable of it. But as we well know, John wasn't anything if not bold, and he proved the point again and again by deliberately bearding the media lion in its den with his committed views on peace, war, drugs, art, sex, and life in general. Here then is a tiny handful of the remaining consciousness of John Lennon circa 1969, which hasn't yet been eroded by time or greedily locked away by the self-interested, self-appointed protectors of John Lennon's cultural legacy. Ever since the Beatles laid down their instruments forever following their final performance at Candlestick Park in San Francisco in 1966, journalists bombarded them with questions about a public reunion. Here Lennon faces the controversy head-on.
Oh, it's a possibility, but Ringo says it isn't, so that's what it is, you know. Somebody was interviewing him at the time, saying, is there any talks? And we haven't talked at all, but I know I'd been talking with somebody, I don't know, Paul or somebody, about possibly going on tour, and you know, how we'd do it if we did. And then I read then somebody asked me, it was about the same time, I don't know whether it was, you know, I don't think it was the same person, but it just so happened that both quotes came out about the same time. I was in Amsterdam or somewhere, somebody asked me about it. Obviously, if I saw all the press for the first time for a long time, they go through everything, you know, like you are anyway, you would have asked this anyway. So I said, yeah, there's a possibility of going on tour.
No,
next day somebody rings up and says, Ringo says no tour, but he'd said that.
Yes,
you know, anyway, he'd been just doing an interview about Magic Christian, and of course, it's like if I'm talking about John and Yoko work, it's hard to keep it off Beatle work, right? And if Ringo's talking about Magic Christian, it's hard to, it gets into what you did in Hamburg in 1980 and all that. So it was a case of that, you know. So I saw Ringo, I said, well, what is it? He says, well, I don't know, but I don't fancy it. And I said, well, I do, so on the certain side. And he said, it'll just be the same. And I said, well, it wouldn't be the same this time, and there it is, you know, so. And I'm not that keen on it, but I think it wouldn't harm us. Well, we wouldn't do it every night, you know. So as we were sort of jumping plane from plane, we'd do it to suit us, you know, and not the promoter or anybody else. Because also, because all this business is going on and reshaping Apple and Northern songs, it's almost impossible to talk about what the Beatles are going to do as the Beatles. They're so involved in this, you know. And but the thing we can do, regardless of what kind of war's going on round about, is record.
In this telling piece, John discusses what's up for the Beatles in '69.
We're packed up with songs. We'll be recording again probably. I think we decided to start recording them around January, so the Get Back will probably come out around January, and we'll get another. We want to try and keep it up 2 a year, because we want to put more out, not less, because we've got so much material now. George is writing full, so we all seem to be writing more. There's just no room on an album anymore, you know? And we can't do double albums every time. It takes so long, you know. But it's just a matter of, that's the problem now, is where to put it all, you know. And see, half the songs are the kind of things that somebody else wouldn't have a hit with it, only we could really make something out of it, you know.
On March 25, 1969, John and Yoko held their first bed-in for peace at the Hilton Hotel in Amsterdam. Just 5 days after they were privately married in Gibraltar, the famous couple were now ready to meet the press. For 6 days they pushed their peaceful philosophy and therefore themselves to the world. The following is a press conference recorded on the afternoon of the second day. It has never before been previously heard.
We'd had the idea to do this event before we got married even. We had the idea, it was on, you know, to do an event where we stayed in bed for 7 days and grew our hair, or go to the Albert Hall and everybody comes and we just grow our hair, you know, on stage. We still might do that. So then when we had 4 days in Paris free before anybody knew we were there, and we were walking around the streets. Then we got married in Gibraltar, came back to Paris, and then it was a bit chaos. So we didn't sort of announce or see anybody. We just sort of on the phone, or if anybody caught us.
Very simple.
So we saved it to announce it. You know, this is an event. You know, it isn't. We were caught in Amsterdam by the press. We invited you here, and we're here because of that.
Very simple music, I think. Is that right?
With the Beatles?
The new record?
No, it's just the same, you know, just us playing guitars. It's always simple, you know. I mean, it's not too intellectual. No.
Well, there are many sort of, you know, many sort of stages, you know.
Yes.
But not many electronic effects.
Well, you see, because we have a few more tracks to do, I don't know how it's going to end up at all. I can't say it. I know we did a lot of sort of, you know. I mean, they said that about any pop star that got married or anything. I can't build my life around what people's reactions are going to be. You know, I must lead my own life as well as I can. And then whatever the reactions are, I must make best use of it. You know, and I can't be aware of every 12-year-old and what they're going to say about what I do, you know. And it's always been somebody else's job, that. Even in Beatlemania.
You know.
Right.
And even if the audience changes, you know, there'll always be a set amount of people that know what we're doing.
And you want that group growing?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I came in late. What do you mean by event?
It's, you tell them about that.
It's an event. I mean, life is a happening. Everything we do is a happening. And all the events that we're doing, you know, are directly connected with the society, you know. I mean, even if you cough, that's going to affect the whole world. And we feel that anything we do, we are responsible to the society too, you know. And so, in a way, we want to communicate with the world and with the people who share the same feeling about peace, you know, that this is a bed piece and it's not P-I-E-C, but it's P-A-C, you know. And grow hair, you know. Let's just stay in bed, grow hair instead of...
How about the story in the morning, in the British morning papers, that you were going to make love in public?
Oh, well, I mean,
Everybody.
That's your idea, it's not mine.
That's not our idea.
No.
Yeah. I think it's a possibility for somebody else. I think we'd produce that show rather than be...
I think, you know, we are...
just a bit reserved for that.
They said that your publicity people leaked it out.
Well, you see, we are
I doubt it. No. There's only Derek there in England. There's only one guy.
You doubt it.
He might have hecked it up a bit. I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't think he would, you know.
Never done.
You doubt it. You don't deny it.
I do deny it. I doubt it very much. I couldn't say. I haven't communicated with him because he's having a baby, you know.
I don't think.
And I don't know what he's doing. I'd doubt very much if he'd be that. If he'd say that, he probably said, "You never know," you know, like that.
Yes, but I mean, conceptually we are making love. I mean, you know, you talk about making love just in one way. You know, you have a set idea about it, but I mean, conceptually we're all making love all the time, you know. And it should be like that instead of making fun.
Some of you ain't so hot at it.
So.
Mr. Lennon, I see that your wife has a wedding ring and you're not. Is there any deeper sense for that?
No, I mean, in England it isn't so much that they wear, the man wears a ring. Occasionally they do. And I find it more irritating, but I'd do it if Yoko wished me to wear a ring. We just never thought of it. It's not, on the continent, I know they do both wear rings, but it's not a sort of thing there, is it? You know, back me up.
Well, I come from Wigan, so I'm not so
come on, do they both wear rings in Wigan?
I've never seen any man in Wigan wearing a ring.
I think it's a self-conscious English thing. It may be good to change it.
No, but I think it's an old ritual kind of thing. You know, it's a symbolic ritual.
Yeah, but I should have one.
Think, well, you belong to me now. You know, and I quite enjoy that.
Why was it important for you to get married?
That's what it is. In other words, it's an old ritual to sort of. It's a symbolic thing, you know. It's the best happening yet, you know, in that sense.
You really think it's the best happening?
Yeah, and intellectually we went into it before it thinking, oh well, we know marriage, somebody gives you a bit of paper, so you're married, so what, we've been living together here, etc., etc. But there is a difference, especially if you're in love when you get married. It's like, I'm happy to keep repeating this, but it's like, we were living together without getting a divorce, because to get it, you don't decide you're in love and you're going to live with somebody, you just do it. Then we got a divorce, and we weren't aware how great the effect of having a piece of paper which said you're free. You know, because we felt free anyway, and we didn't consider whether the paper came or not. It would just be nice to have a legal divorce in case of, you know, function.
Yeah.
So then the divorce papers came through. That's good. And marriage was the same, only the other way around. We got very emotional at the ceremony. That's why we wanted to do it privately and not completely publicly, because we prefer to see how we were about it. You know? And it was very emotional and romantic and sweet.
Forgive me my unpoliteness, but if this marriage should fail, would it change your ideas?
On marriage?
Yeah.
Well,
I have no idea. It's like saying if we're going to get died, if there's an earthquake, you know, that's what it means to me, that question. I can't speculate on if this marriage could fail, or if you're going to die. You know, it's a bit hard.
You want a baby?
Yeah, if we have babies, we have them. You know, we don't try not to. And we think it might be nice to conceive in Amsterdam.
Yes, that would
Why?
Well, because we do this event here, you know, to tie up with everything.
I was told that you want to go back to Amsterdam because in '63 you were here and there were, quite an emotional tour you made in the canals. That made an impression that you like to come back.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place apart from the youth. Doing all their things. It's a beautiful city to look at. You live here, you know it. And there's a few cities.
How do you know? You've never been here.
But I mean, we all went round a bit last time, you know, early morning and things like that. Which sort? And you can smell it. Even in this room, you can smell it's nice. And it's just.
You have no plan to go out and see the city this time?
No, the event is because the whole event is for us to stay in bed, and we know it's quite hard to stay in bed. I did it in India. It's very hard to stay in one room. Not learnt it, I did it because I wanted to. And it's quite hard to stay in a room, you know. So we consider that the small sacrifice we make of staying in a room is worth it because of the effect we think it'll have. It's like throwing a stone into water, and we think the ripples will have some effect throughout the world, you know. Here trying to have a private time. I mean, he was there halfway down the motorway waiting for us. So it would have been pointless. You're going to be following us anyway, so we may as well make use of your function and our function. We're the freaks, and you're the ones that write about us, so we may as well get together and make some use of it, you know.
What do you think of image?
Image, you know.
the image we're looking after. We want to communicate the world, you see, and with the same people, you know, the youth, you know.
Yes, but you had a certain image. You changed your image.
No, I changed myself. You change it. I don't change it. I just am myself, you know. And if the image I project, like how much hair I've got, whether I wear blue glasses or green glasses or paint my nails, it's a matter of choice, you know. I mean, we all have our own image, and that's the one that we dress in the morning, you know. And we comb our hair this way and we do that. And that's our image. That's all image means to me. I know that image is created on a mass scale and that, but I don't believe that. I've never kept to an image, you know. I know we had Beatle image and we had pre-Beatle image, and after Beatle image I had Lennon image and I had John image.
Yes.
Two separate things, and there was Paul image and George image, and each, but you know, we can't be conscious of these things, because the more time you spend wondering about that, you can't do the work, you know.
We're just being, especially John was always sort of, I think, very honest and one of the greatest men I know, you know, in that sense. I mean, he's just being himself.
I like him.
You know, he's just being himself. And the rest of it was just the world, you know, the world did it, you know, I mean, to create all sorts of images.
Listen, gentlemen, I don't want
Apple a little bit.
Let them get what they want.
Can we talk a bit about the Apple? Have you any plans to open up boutiques in Europe, on the continent?
With no boutiques in London either.
Is it true that
Apple's going to be a production company.
Is it true that Apple is doing financially pretty bad?
It was being run. It was when I made that statement, but since then we brought in a man called Alan Klein, who's sewing it all together. He's the only man that has the ability to replace Brian.
He's an American.
Yeah, he also handles the Rolling Stones. He's the only man we've met out of all the people over the last 2 years, as we've been floundering about trying to do it ourselves, that could possibly replace Brian on a personal basis and a business basis.
How much you lost in the Apple?
Oh, I have no clue. Ask him, he'll tell you. You know, it doesn't mean I have no clue. I just knew it was going, you know, slipping away. I don't mind about it going, but if we could have done something, we wasted it. You know, it could have been used better. But we are trying to do something and we couldn't do it. We have to have businessmen to do it. We're not businessmen.
I know. But when
we didn't.
When you mention Apple, it's the whole of Apple. It's not only Apple Records, because Apple Records is going very well.
Yeah, Apple Records doing fine. You know the hits and all that. But Apple as a production company we were spending too much money to produce the things we wanted to produce. You know, we could have done it much cheaper and more effectively. But we've learned, you know.
But you keep the name anyway.
Sure. I mean, the concept of Apple is what we created really, and the concept of Apple is beautiful. You know, we want to do something nice with it. But it was actually the function of it, doing it, didn't turn out too well. It wasn't disastrous, but the statement I made was if we went on for another 6 months, it would be near the line, you know, and we'd have to do some spectacular work to pull it out.
It was one of those John's rash statements, you know, he was being too honest, saying, well, in 6 months it might go broke, and then they said, oh, Apple is broke, which wasn't true, really.
There's no point in having a business that keeps telling you how great it is, and then it goes broke. It looks even more foolish, I think, and that's my...
If it's somebody else, you would have said, no, Apple's going all right, you know. I mean,
we could have kept up an image of it going fine, and you know, and got away with it. But so it collapsed with a great image. You know, we look fools. I'd sooner be straight about it. And if it's going well, say, put in the adverts for Apple saying the company's losing this month, please buy our stuff. Like the one that wasn't Hertz Rent-A-Car, the other one says we're second best. Yeah. You know, that kind of honesty, and Avis, but it's, you know, on that line. Yeah, let's cut that talk of Apple.
Don't you think it
let's get back to peace.
To invite the press in here, because if the press should make this whole event ridiculous,
not every one of you.
It would mean you wouldn't communicate with the Amsterdam News.
Well, so the worst thing that could happen is we give somebody a laugh. You know, and we're willing to do that.
And there's a great need of laugh in the world, because everybody is too serious, and that's why there's violence.
We know possibly 60% of you will write it one way, but one or two of you will write it another way. Yeah. And the photographs you can't change. And that is communication direct, without any words. And the films you can't change, whatever the questions and answers are. Us as people you can't affect. You can affect a few people's image of us by writing they look like madmen or what an ugly couple and that. But you get the reaction to that. In Britain there's been constant ugly people, terrible people. But of course then Mrs. Higgins from Wigan writes, why do you keep saying that about those poor people? Leave them alone. And then the reverse thing happens.
Your job is done.
Yeah, the same is to happen to people. Britain knocks us and then praising us. They treat us like they're children, you know, bad boys, good boy, bad boy, good boy. And we accept that, you know, because
You registrate everything on your...
Gentlemen, I don't want to be rude, but there are some colleagues who are waiting upstairs. Hello.
I like to use, I might use it for various things, LPs.
4 records.
Or maybe that's...
Yes?
You make an album with 4 records. When does it appear?
Oh, us two?
No, the Beatles.
With 4 records? No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
We might, have no idea. It's the first I've heard. So it's like the right song. Oh, sure, we've been working every day, you know, writing music and drawing and designing our next LP cover. There's our next LP cover on the top of the wall.
That's the cover van de nieuwe LP.
Life with the Lions.
In bed? Ja. Nee, daar.
Yes.
Cover. What's the main protest against, John?
Violence.
What about? What kind of violence?
Any violence. Any violence, yeah.
Vietnam?
Yeah, Vietnam, London.
London? What about London?
Amsterdam.
Revolution through violence.
Revolution through violence. Violence
Yes.
we don't want. If we have any effect on any young people, we think that the best way to do it is like Gandhi, at least. Even though all the peaceful people got shot.
He never stayed in bed for 7 days in that.
No, well, we're not Gandhi, you know. We're now.
And also all the pacifists, you know, like Martin Luther King or John Kennedy or Gandhi, all got assassinated. Either way, sort of accused of being that. And I think the reason for that is because, we might be too, but the thing is, we are doing it with sense of humor. We just want to sort of give a laugh to the world, you know. And I think that's the only way we can do it, you know.
It's just like if the world was a room, a party in a room, and the people were pretty depressed, it wasn't going too well, and then some mad guy or some groovy chick comes in, they can change the whole atmosphere. And that's what we're trying to do in the world. The world's a big place, so we have to keep hopping round, you know. But we want to be the happy freaks, or whatever we appear to you as.
You're staying 7 days?
To be a clown.
Yes. And we want to be the people that come in the room and make it a bit happier, you know, even if it's just for an instant. You know, if there's just somebody picks up the paper and says, God, what are they doing now? That's okay. And some beautiful cartoons are coming out of this already, you know, in all the nationals. It's beautiful, you know. And it's worth it for that. If that's the only effect we have, is to give people a laugh.
Because the world needs it.
Why did you choose Hilton for this?
Because we thought, which is...
No, he didn't choose Hilton. I did choose Hilton.
Well, it's functional, you know.
It's functional, Hilton, you know.
So how's the bed? What way?
The bed's not bad.
The bed's not bad?
Not bad
It's
at all.
alright, yes.
The room's beautiful, you know.
B-O-S-K-A-M-P.
Because of what we are, you see, we need some protection. I mean, when we're in bed. So in Hilton and this high floor and all that, it's easier, you know, for us to do it here.
Through the 7 days, or are you going to sort of isolation?
If they want specific things, we're here specifically to talk to the press, you
Yes,
know,
we
and
are here to
magazines,
communicate.
and to give people as much as they want of us, you know. And the initial impact will be the first.
This is obviously, according to you, not a gimmick. You're not selling anything.
No,
it's not a gimmick.
See,
You're not going to record anything out of this company.
Oh, we've got records coming out and films coming out, but I mean that's a byproduct of what we are, you know.
This is not sort of a...
No. I mean, if there's a record magazine or anything that's going to plug the next record, good, you know, we'll plug it. But I mean, we can think of something less hard to do than stay in a room 7 days to plug a record, you know.
it's quite comfortable.
Yeah, but you try it. Try 7 days in a room. I did it only once in India, and it's bloody hard, you know. Bloody hard to stay when you're perfectly well, and you can go out to stay in a room.
Well, I mean, can I ask you, you are literally going, apart from getting up for physical necessity...
Yes, yeah.
We're going
to stay in bed, yeah. And we work from here, of course. Well, we're not here to see Amsterdam. We're here to show Amsterdam us.
Yes.
And next time we'll see Amsterdam.
Can you tell me what's more difficult, to stay in a room 7 days alone or with your wife?
Oh, it'd be much easier this time, believe me. But even that is hard. We both get restless, you know. In Paris, after the news broke, we were trapped a bit, and we were both getting a bit restless, you know, like leaning a bit further out the window. But even together makes it easier. Obviously, doing anything with somebody and somebody you love makes it easier, you know.
But are you really going to receive people here, or friends? You have invited friends, or?
We haven't invited anybody except for the.
But anybody can come in here.
Well, no, I mean, we're not going to have open house for 7 days. No. But I mean, we're selective, you know.
Yes. Are you going to hold a special happening, or?
No, this is the happening. We are the happening. We are the happening.
Stay in bed for 7 days.
And not while we're here, we'll be growing our hair. You know?
They say that Yoko wants to show her drawings to Amsterdam. Is that true?
Drawings?
Well, look around.
No, that's just to decorate the room.
That's a rumor, yes.
How long would you say 7 days your hair would grow?
I don't know. I mean, we have to get the scientists in for that. But I think it's an easy way of people protesting to grow their hair without marching or breaking buildings. It's easy for anybody if they want to do it. It's easier for if somebody's going to protest for them to smash down buildings or anything like that. If they just grew their hair, so everybody that wanted peace was a big hairy mass, then that's a good protest.
Instead of fist fighting, you know.
You know, I'm sure some of them are going to get in trouble at work and things like that, but they're still, if they're interested enough to leave work to protest or leave school to protest, it's still easier for them to grow their hair.
Would you like a lot of...
No, I think that's it. It's not functional, you know. I mean, hair growing is a bit functional as well.
Yes.
What? What did you say?
Would you like that a lot of young people would follow your advice to stay in bed?
Sure, stay in bed rather than violence, not stay in bed for fun.
And how about production?
Production? How do you mean?
After those 7 days.
After those 7 days?
Oh, after we get back into production, normal production.
But you're leaving Amsterdam State after this
well, I think so. I think we've got to get back and finish off a few things in London, you know.
Well, this is a production too, you know.
Yeah,
what kind of production?
A bed production.
This is both of us in a way, you know.
Because you're doing this also in accordance with Gandhi.
It wasn't the original thing. You see, we always discuss things together in bed, you know, and it just came to
because we're not Indian, you know, and it's just as important to be in Amsterdam as it is to be in India.
The hairpiece is John's idea. I think it's beautiful, you know.
You continue protesting your whole life?
I think we are a protest anyway.
You keep on protesting?
I mean, sure, you know, in our way. You know.
Till you're dead?
In our way, yes.
Is there any...
Till it changes.
Is there any protesting already?
Yes, well, it would be great if we do some sleep here in this bed. I mean, it doesn't matter really. And
even the early ones,
goes with a bed piece and hairpiece.
Childish protesters.
And we might just name him or her piece.
But not all the people have the same idea of protesting, I think.
No, because we're all individuals, you know. But we're all aware that the Beatles are, as a whole has some effect on people, and we prefer it to be a good effect,
we don't have
or a happy effect than a bad one, and that's enough between us to sustain them.
Few people realize that following John and Yoko's bed-ins in Amsterdam and Montreal, a third protest was planned for the Bahamas. For various reasons, however, it didn't quite come off. John's official explanation was that it was just too damn hot and much farther from the United States media pool than he expected. What follows is a never-before-heard press conference held on the eve of the Lennon's departure to the bed-in that never was.
Well, we've been trying to get in the States to do a peace mission, and we've been trying to get visas, you know, and it doesn't look like we're getting it so far. So we're going to the Bahamas to sort of blast off from the Bahamas and do a Cuba on the our way from the Bahamas. And the reasons and the behind-the-scenes bit about the visas we'll let you know about in the Bahamas. We've got something to say about it, which we won't say yet till we find out, you know, give them a day. And the thing is, we want to go and do a peace mission. We want to take acorns to Nixon. That's all we want to do, but somebody doesn't want us to do it, you know. And so the Bahamas is the next best deal we could think of. And we'll probably do a bed event there, which we did in Amsterdam, which was stay in the bed a week. And we call it our second honeymoon, which we're having rather quickly after our first one. And we'll be...
3 or 4 every year.
Doing that from the Bahamas, bed for a week, and then we'll be out and about a bit, waiting to hear about the States and trying to get friends inside to help us, you know. Because I think they think I'm going to go there and run around the streets naked, you know. The plan is just to promote peace in a non-violent fashion, and the States needs it. And it's the right time for two non-violent people to go. And why are they frightened of two non-violent people going to promote non-violence? The situation's serious enough for them to be pleased with people that are going to say to the kids, don't break it. You know, which is a bit explicit in that letter. The kids are shouting, kill the pigs. And we're saying, you know, get off that and get back to make love, not war, you know. It's the only way out. And that's it, really, in a nutshell.
And we're not trying to do anything special, and it's just something to remind them, you know, remember love and peace. You know.
And give peace a chance. And we can't see that, you know, that's something for them to be frightened of. The circumstances which kept me out were the court case for the drugs charge, but as the judge accepted the mitigating circumstances, I don't see why the States can't, you know. And the British are under the impression that it's the Americans won't let me in, you know, and it's just a game that's going on called delaying tactics. So we waited a week almost. We've almost wasted 10 days trying to get out there. So now we're going to go as near as we can.
And what would Lennon do if he actually somehow managed to get into the U.S.?
Well, we hope to have an audience with Nixon and give him some acorns to plant for peace as a symbol of peace, you know. And we think that's a positive move towards peace. And we hope to go around the world doing that, if we can, you know. But we thought we'd start with America, as it was an English-speaking nation. You know.
In need of some...
And with the violence going on there. So that's what we would hope to calm some of that. If we have any influence over the kids and youth, which we do, it can be better felt if we're there. They think we're going to inflame the youth, but we're not. We want to pacify everyone as much as we can.
John was also asked to enunciate his hopes concerning the Bahamas bed-in. Here's his reply.
We'll do 7 days in bed, in which we'll hold the 7-day press conferences, which is what we did in Amsterdam. For anybody who's interested, radio stations, TV, press, school mag, anyone who wants to know can get us there, you know. And we'd like, you know, the press from the north of America, as well as the south. That's why we'd like you to UPI it, you know, so we don't arrive there and then the nearest ones get there first. We'd like everybody to have pre-knowledge that we're there, so anybody who's interested can get over.
Generally, your average garden variety journalist in those days was pretty square and had a hard time appreciating the ingenuity behind the creation of the Lennon's various bed-ins. Here John is asked to go on record concerning the influence of the offbeat protests.
We've had thousands of letters from people who have been influenced by it, you know, and that's apart from just the good stuff in the press like cartoons, etc., etc. We appreciate the cartoons, whether they're for us or against us. You know, if it gives people a laugh is a release of tension. So we don't mind being Abbott and Costello for the world, you know, and we'll do that if it relaxes people. Anything we can do, we'll do it, you know. And so cartoons and everything are worthwhile. Any kind of picture of us, whether it's getting off a plane again or sitting in the office or whatever. You know, because we're talking about the essentials of life. And most newspaper headlines are not that essential. So we think that our propaganda is as important as the next man's, if not more, because we're talking just about peace and not about what size table. This is the most positive thing. The bed event was the most positive thing that our two minds which are pretty well ticking, could think of, whether we appear as freaks or clowns. The effect was that everybody for that period was talking about peace, and since then we threw a stone in the water and the ripples are still going round, and we've had various approaches from various different peace movements asking, what can we do? You know, it looks like the marches are going nowhere, which is what we're saying. All you get is front page headlines of violence after the march. And, you know, we'll think up a few gimmicks for them too. So, I mean, people, what we did was say, John and Yoko are available for functions, you know, for peace functions, and that's what we did. So it doesn't matter whether they say we're freaks. We are freaks, you know, in their eyes, you know. But who's to judge what a freak is, you know?
And it gave a great sort of uplifting beat to the whole world. And the world was so tense, and now, you know, they started to smile again.
It's down to that. If the world was a party, and it was a bit miserable or a bit intellectual, everybody got onto one subject, you know, got like that. And some guy comes in a bit pissed or a bit happy, change the whole atmosphere, even if it's for 5 minutes, you know. And that's all we're doing. Take the world as one big party, and we're all getting a bit like that, and everybody's talking about what to do and not doing anything. And we say we are doing something. We're the guy that comes in the room and cheers them up. Even our friends, the British press, you know, they're always knocking us and that, but when would they meet us at London Airport? They're friendly faces, you know, I know that. They've been seeing me come in for years in various disguises, and I know them as people, and what they write is vaguely what they think. It's not the same, and we know what the game is, you know. And in the song Ballad of John and Yoko, which is the Beatles' new song, I say, the press, when we got back to London, say it's good to have the both of you back. Nobody actually said that, but it was there in the room, you know.
In this piece, John is asked to explain his mission in the Bahamas. Pressman Derek Taylor also chimes in.
Inspire the kids and the youth that are protesting to protest in a non-violent way. We think violence begets violence, and the establishment know how to fight violence, but they don't know how to fight Gandhi.
It might be you never do know what you do. It might be there was one riot less that you never knew about, because if it doesn't happen, it never existed. But it may, you see.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, we just want to tell them, you know, here's an instance of how to protest by staying in bed. And everybody says, oh, it's all right for you staying in bed. But what we did first time was give up our honeymoon. Anybody could do that. If some old woman up in Lancashire did it and announced to our local press before we'd done it, said, I'm going to stay in bed for a week, to our local press, all the press would be saying, what the hell, you know, and they'd go down and see what this freaky old woman was doing. And that's the argument against people saying it's all right for you to. It is the best way for us to. Maybe some old woman who wants to do something could do something else. But we're giving people incentive to do something, anything, for peace, even however small scale it is.
So it's not a lost cause. There is more peace than war, even now.
Yeah.
There is more.
War just creates more noise.
It's a minority, a noise minority.
But like, I don't think the situation will get like the First World War, where everybody's happy to go to war. Like the whole of Britain was conned into the First World War, thinking, you know, they couldn't wait to get out there, you know, for the 3-day fight and then come home with the spoils and a bit of rape, and it's all over. So what we're doing is reminding people of that, you know. Don't be conned by it. Fight the good fight bit, you know.
Here the press inquires if indeed there are any eventualities in which John would advocate violence as a viable solution.
All violence, whether it's local violence in the back alley,
or student violence,
or any violence. Vietnam's is really a manifestation of the world's violence, like the First World War was, or Hitler was. And we're anti-violence, you know, full stop.
Here John discusses Apple and the big business of rock and roll.
Well, I always kept 24 hours a day hours for work, you know. It just so happens I find it convenient to do it here, you know. As a Beatle, it was a 24-hour job, you know, and it still is as a Beatle, and as Peacenik, Freak, John and Yoko, you know, it's the same gig.
They're both very...
Except that this happens to be our business as well, our Beatle business and Apple, so we do both, you know. Apple business is doing okay now that we have Klein and good people to look after it, and Platts, David Platts. And the Beatles are taking a break at this point of time. I should have been in America now, because Paul and George, I think George still is, but they're on holiday, you know. Like Ringo's in the Bahamas too, so I might spoil his holiday for him. We hope to go around for major places in the world, you know, and promote peace.
And why the Bahamas for this particular protest, Mr. Lennon?
We're going to the Bahamas because at the moment we can't get in the States, you know, and the reasons given are various. And we're going to the Bahamas to promote peace. We're trying to get to the States to promote peace. That only, non-violent protest, you know. And I think the States are afraid that we'll go over and rouse the kids up, you know, which we don't intend to do at all. We intend to try and calm the place down, you know. I think the States need us, you know, and we can help. And I don't see what reason besides, okay, there's the offence bit. That I can get in, you know, you're allowed in, Donovan's in, and it's the same bit, and there was mitigating circumstances allowed by the judge here. Why can't they accept that? Now, anything more about the visa, I can let your people know in the Bahamas, because there's still a chance, but I'm going to keep trying a bit nearer this time, and a bit louder, and a bit more publicly. But there might be some more fun about the visa, which I'll tell you about in the Bahamas, you know. Backstage details. We're going to do a 7 days lie-in again and talk to the press, and then all the people are interested in the communication world, you know, either radio, TV, newspapers, anything, and tell them a few stories about peace. We achieved a lot, you know. A, we relieved some tension in the world by giving a laugh. B, we've had many, many letters from all walks of life backing us, from many different people. C, we've been approached by a lot of the major peace movements to see if we can inject any life into them as they go round in circles. And that's just the start. We threw a stone in the water, and the ripples are still rippling, you know, and now we're going to throw another stone in, same message tied to the stone, and see what happens then, you know. And we don't intend to stop till peace is declared, you know. And the main complaint about the bed event was that, you know, it's okay for them to stay in bed. They can afford it. Anybody can afford to stay in bed, especially taking a honeymoon or a holiday. And if some old woman did it before we'd done it and announced in Lancashire, I'm going to stay in bed for peace, the press would have been around like hot flies. Oh, not hot flies, like flies around a hot cake, you know, saying, what is this old freak doing, you know? And so all we're doing is giving people inspiration to do a protest against violence in a non-violent way. And all the marches did was get front-page news about violence from the police or from the crowd or whatever. And violence begets violence, and we say, if you want peace, you've got to get it peacefully. We'd like to see the President and give him some acorns to plant for peace as a symbol of world peace. At least let the trees grow. You know, and acorns are a seed, and a very symbolic thing, you know, and it's also a positive move towards peace, and there need be no discussions about what size table or which field to put it in. You can just plant it, and that's a positive public move towards peace, besides just saying, I'd like to start talking about it. We'll mail them as well, but we thought taking them was make sure they get it, you know. We'll mail them. See, if we got to the States, we might have mailed them from the UN, say, you know, where everybody's in one pile almost, except for China and a few outsiders. Yeah, the acorns are waiting for us with all the parcels, names and everything, but we thought if we can give them personally to one or two world leaders and post them to the other people, then it have more effect than us just having one shot in the paper of us posting acorns which might get lost or not acknowledged to be received.
In a very strange twist, various high-level politicians on both sides of the Atlantic were willing to help John with his visa problems if and when he filmed an anti-drug commercial aimed at the youth. He never did, as Lennon explains.
Somebody had to stick their neck out, and this senator said he would, and he did, but he wanted a deal. And then when I talked to the ambassador over here, they said they wanted a deal was that I'd do an anti-narcotics videotape with him or something. But he told us not to mention anything about him. And then I'll have to word this so that I don't make any mistakes over there. So the embassy over here asked me about the videotape, you know, and I said I knew nothing about it, which I didn't. I knew about the senator, but I was not meant to say anything about it. They asked me about the videotape, and I said, no, nothing about it. Then they said, oh, well, and then they wired back to Washington and said, he knows nothing about it, you know. So then they stopped it, and then they waited around a bit. Then last night, there are people over there got through to him, and he said he'd have to say this, and he had a letter saying, I'm going to do tapes with Senator, whatever his name is, and anti-narcotics, and, you know, sell out to get in, you know. So, yeah, and there's a hell of a lot of pressure for me not to get in.
Here a reporter wonders, was Lennon as anti-war, anti-establishment, and pro-peace when he was first a Beatle?
He couldn't say I was a violent guy, you know. So I was anti-war then, but now the slogan is peace. You know, it's still anti-war. When we talked about what we think about war and all that,
yes, thank you.
We came to the conclusion that peace is the alternative. You know, I mean, it's like knowing it already, but doing something about it. I mean, Yoko was doing it anyway, peace demonstrations in a way, but she wasn't allowed to do too much demonstration in England because she was an alien. You know,
well, now I can just about do everything.
Now she's married to me. We can do things like Amsterdam, you know, and we think that's a positive, real way of doing it, you know. And we went through a lot of months of thought that the best way for John Lennon and Yoko Ono to do something about peace, and the most effective and broad way of doing it was for us to dedicate our honeymoon to peace and blab off about it for 10 days to the press. And the press is like a letterbox. You post letters, and some of them get through, and some get dirty, and some get lost. But it gets through if you send off 2,000 letters with the same message on. If I had a newspaper, I'd love it. You know, I think the press is. I just think TV is a bit more important now. That's all. But I've not anything against the press. You know, they're human beings. You know, and I've nothing against the police. They're human beings. But I get uptight about the same things anybody else does. You know.
I saw some very famous people got married recently, and they got like 15 minutes of TV coverage, you know, and something like that. And they were making a statement just to the effect that they're going to get married and they're happy about it or something like that. And I thought, well, while they're just saying, well, yes, I'm going to get married, you know, something daft as that, you know, why couldn't they just plug peace, like saying, you know, that's 15 minutes precious time of TV, you know. And the world is in this chaos and everything. And instead of, you know, announcing something personal as that, they could use that and say, well, and by the way, let's have peace, you know. By the way, why don't we stop violence? Why can't you say that, you know? So that's what we did, exactly. In other words, we're going to get the press around anyway. So why do we waste it on us, you know?
Saying it, you know. No, you know, the queens and the prime ministers and all the people in the public eye. Why don't they talk about it all the time, you know?
Instead of saying,
we might have a meeting about a meeting about having a meeting to talk about it. You know, why don't they just talk about it on that instance that they're talking?
Direct,
you know, even if they tell the public what they're trying to do about the meeting, that the meeting is going to be the meeting. You know. Because actually, it's like a dirty word, you know. And like, okay, the psychedelic period, etc. Everybody's saying make love, not war. But now, especially in America, they're saying kill the pigs. You know, and that establishment know how to play violence. You know, that they've been playing it for millions of years. And they're never going to win. The pigs happen to be other human beings. And if they think bringing back hanging to kill murderers is the answer, that's what they're saying, kill the pigs. If you want to bring back hanging and whipping and the stocks, you know, you can't have one without the other, really. But it's the same bit, you know. They're not going to make it, you know, like that. And so if they do make it violently, they take over the States or anywhere, they're going to have to smash it all down first, and then they're going to spend the next generation or so building it all up again. And if it's like Russia, and they build it up into another one, you know. And it's never, they always say, give peace a chance, and give non-violence a chance, because nobody ever has. You know, there's just nobody has ever tried it, you know, and they've tried all the revolutions.
I really think also that when I say intelligence plus something, you know, I mean, that's where John is different from others, and in that sense, I really think that John is really the greatest mind, you know, that I've met in a way.
Hello.
And
is Peter there?
The point is that he's playing
the guy with
down,
the contract bit.
Playing it down.
Oh, yeah, well, he's left, you know. He's here now.
his intelligence.
Yeah. Listen,
Instead of playing his intelligence
okay, hang on a bit. I'll wait till he leaves.
He's playing the clown, you know.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a coat, but I did have it one step.
What's it now or he
playing
did?
the clown. Well, okay, I mean, you know, he's doing that now more so, I suppose, you know. Well, in other words, we're doing it now, all right? But I've never met a man who was doing that.
And it's okay, you'll see it when you get there, and he can
like, I was trying to do that, you know.
Yeah, I have that. Well, I really did check
I had a feeling always that all that, the male race in the world is a little bit limited, you know.
Because the main thing is,
they tend to be too serious, they tend to, you know, be too professional. Professional meaning limited, you know, one field, etc. You know,
it was just
having too much
guy.
professional pride
and
being blocked by that, you know, having a mind block like that.
So
you know,
the guy that we got it from was hip, so we said, who's your solicitor? And the guy was pretty sharp and young, like in a small office, and only just getting going, but he was hip all right.
You know, as soon as they get hold of it.
But I haven't told
you know, I mean, the general type of man I consider is the clerk type, you know, who has one talent and trying to hold on to that.
We've added on the bottom.
And that goes with all the artists as well. You know, a painter holding on to one tiny idea and saying that he's a painter and building up his painting career on that one tiny idea, etc.
Well, you'll see, he'll explain
I've never done that myself. So I always thought that I was superior to male race.
The next one is
male race, that is. And
and then
I met this phenomenon.
Oh, he's fine, you know, but I think that
pretty versatile himself, you know, I mean, superbly so.
Harold. Yeah, but he is independent, you know, that's all right.
Isn't the type of male that I expected a male to be, you know. We're giving some laugh to the world, you know, as Lauren Hardy did, you know.
Geoffrey Giuliano is the author of some 30 internationally best-selling books on the Beatles, John Lennon, and other iconic musicians of the 1960s. In 2006, his book, Paint It Black, The Murder of Brian Jones, was made into a film by Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell entitled Stoned, The Wild and Wicked World of Brian Jones. It remains a cult classic and the only film bio of the Rolling Stones. Giuliano is also a veteran journalist, having written for dozens of high-profile newspapers and magazines, including The Sunday People, The Daily Mail, The News of the World, The Mail on Sunday, Playgirl, and Rolling Stone. A noted film actor, Giuliano starred in such movies as Vikingdom, Scorpion King 3, Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island, The Fifth Execution, Far Cry 3, Fire Desire, among many. In addition, he hosted the long-running North American syndicated radio series, Geoffrey Giuliano's Roots of Rock, for 5 years, as well as pioneering the audiobook industry in the 1990s by authoring, narrating, and producing over 250 original, non-book-based, interview-driven productions. Giuliano's publishers included Random House, HarperCollins, Delta Entertainment, Durkin Hayes, Playaway Audio, Speechworks, and B&B Audio, among dozens more internationally. In 1998, Random House acquired his firm Tribute Audio, for which Giuliano acted as CEO and publisher for 5 years. His best-selling audiobook, That Fateful Night, True Stories of Titanic Survivors in Their Own Words, was nominated for a Grammy. In 2014, Geoffrey Giuliano founded Icon Editions and G2 Media Arts to market his updated works as well as publish new projects. As a visual artist, Geoffrey has been showing in galleries across America since 1977, garnering impressive reviews. His first professional assignment was designing several T-shirts for The Who's Pete Townsend in 1976. Geoffrey also designed and illustrated many of his original rock biographies for the biggest publishers in the world from 1984 to 2006, as well as designing for his pioneering record label, Samba Records, in the mid-1990s. From 2006 to 2011, Geoffrey was also the primary designer for the French fashion house Cotai. When Giuliano first conceived of creating his own literary imprint, Icon Editions, he became responsible for illustrating and designing 35 book covers, several hundred CDs, DVDs, as well as dozens of promotional posters, and eventually an entire collection of exclusive fashion and art. The expansive design by Giuliano brand grew out of Geoffrey's impressive commitment to the arts and is the culmination of a lifetime's work by an extraordinarily talented and determined Renaissance man.